Hello again, and welcome to today's episode of The Gentle Shift, Health by Choice, Not by Chance. I am Dr. Aaron Kiefer. I'm happy you are tuning in today. Buckle up because this is going to be a longer episode. Today, we're going to be talking about what I call the 6 pillars of health and how working on improving each pillar leads to an overall improvement of our health. I will discuss how these pillars build on each other and create positive momentum. The reality is most of us are coming to a place with our health where we have what seems to be a lot of changes we might want to make. Understanding the pillars of health will help to make decisions on what may be easier to implement, as well as what may make the most impact. We are all about getting the best bang for our buck. We like to see large changes happening with minimal energy expenditure. And then as you go, you can start feeling more comfortable about those changes, and you can start to implement more and more things. My hope is you will learn how to maximize the pillars for your own benefit. In an earlier episode, I discussed that first and foremost, we are self-healing. Our bodies heal themselves. Our bodies were created with this miraculous ability to heal itself. So what we want to do to become healthy is first, we want to stop interfering with those healing processes. And then we want to learn how to work with those healing processes. We want to supplement the body's natural ability to heal, adapt, and improve. So I enjoy talking about what I call the 6 pillars of health. These are the things that when combined, they keep us healthy. While all pillars are important, I rank them a little bit further. By ranking, when I look at any issue, I try to consider what's the thing that's going to cause the biggest issue? Because when left uncared for, these are the things that will ultimately lead to the largest problems in the future. While realistically you can start your health journey really at any pillar, I'd suggest starting to improve toward the top of the pillars first and then start to work down the line from there. Taking care of less and less, maybe important pieces. And so I have what I call the 6 pillars of health. And these are the things that if we make changes to our life and the things we're doing, they're going to have the biggest impact. And the cool thing is, since these pillars are so important, you'll actually create this positive health momentum, especially when working on the top items first and then moving down the list. I talked in the very first episode about health momentum. And as making improvements to a positive impact on our health, we create this momentum. And as that momentum grows, those things like being sick or having an injury are going to have less of an overall impact on us. And we're going to be able to come out of them faster. And so by following these 6 pillars of health and improving any of those aspects of those pillars of health are ultimately going to lead to a higher state of health, and it's going to support all the other pillars. When I look at these pillars of health, I like to rank them. I think I use a fairly easy system to determine the level of importance. I look at it this way. What's the things that in an extreme case, having none of that available is going to kill us soonest? So the 6 pillars of health are, in order, care for your nervous system, exercise, water, diet, sleep, and stress reduction. So first and foremost, the most important thing is having a healthy nervous system. If our nervous system is not healthy, specifically if we have a complete absence of nervous system function, we die instantly. There's not 5 seconds that goes by before we're gone. Our central nervous system is comprised of our brain stem, and then continues on to our spinal cord. Then the nervous system extends by way of all of our nerves, and they go to all the cells of our body. So we need to take care of our central nervous system. It is a system that is important enough in the body that is protected with bone surrounding all of the sides. And the central nervous system is suspended in this fluid. It's cerebral spinal fluid, which further protects it. As we go, I'm going to talk about each of these specifically and how to better support, nourish, and improve each pillar of health. So number 2 is exercise. Exercise is for our cardiovascular system, which is comprised of our heart and our lungs, all the arteries and veins of the body. Our cardiovascular system is, of course, responsible for moving blood around the body. The purpose for moving blood around the body is to deliver oxygen, nutrients to all the cells of the body. So the primary benefit of exercise is to make the cardiovascular system more efficient, both in our ability to take in oxygen through our lungs, as well as our ability to move the blood through the body. And so when we're looking at exercise, the thing I'm always thinking about is oxygen. So in general, we can survive about 10 minutes without oxygen reaching our brain. Of interest to show the importance of the nervous system, we can survive specifically until our brain lacks oxygen for 10 minutes. Most of the other cells in our body can live much longer than 10 minutes without oxygen. So next up on the list, coming in at number 3, is water. We need to have enough water intake during the day. We can survive without water for about 3 to 4 days before we're going to pass away. So water is third on my list. Lack of water ultimately causes the thickening of our blood, the slowing of the flow of the blood, and ultimately, finally, the lack of delivery of blood and oxygen to the brain. So once again, death ultimately comes from the lack of function of the central nervous system. Are we already seeing how these things play into each other? So fourth on the list is, of course, food. Food is obviously the thing that's going to be taken in by our body and broken down. The nutrients are going to be delivered to all the cells of the body through the blood to allow these cells to function and heal themselves. Without food, we can survive actually a pretty long period of time. Unlike what sometimes my son will talk about, he'll be saying how he's starving and that he's going to die within the next 5 minutes. The reality is we can survive without food for weeks or even 1 to 2 months if we are intaking water. We can survive a long time without food because the body can start to break down all the fat and muscle tissue and turn those into calories. And as we know, some of us may have a little bit more extra calories stored in the tank. So food is fourth on our pillars of health. Coming in fifth is sleep. Of interest, the longest recorded time without sleep is 11 days. We're unsure how long one can actually survive without sleep because in extreme cases of sleep deprivation, the body will oftentimes go into a comatose state to get the restoration necessary. So even with a couple of nights of poor or interrupted sleep, we will see an effect on our cognitive ability. We have this brain fog. Poor sleep also affects our ability for our bodies to heal. We can go greatly sleep deprived for an extremely long period of time before it's actually going to kill us. Last on that list is that chronic thing that we're probably, even though we will say sometimes it kills us, it probably takes an extremely, extremely long period of time. The sixth on that list, and also a very important thing to consider, is stress. So we're going to talk today about all those pillars of health and some things that we can do to help ourselves improve each of those. As I said, they build on each other. So if you're exercising, you're going to have a tendency to want to drink more water, both during exercise and after. And you're probably going to have some better health choices for your food as well as better sleep and stress management. And so they build on each other. the higher you start on improving those pillars of health, the bigger bang for the buck you'll be receiving. But really, the key is to just start somewhere. And you'll find that as you improve, you'll naturally start to work to improve other areas. So first on the list for me is the nervous system. And I might be biased in this. As a NUCA doctor, as an upper cervical doctor, I am working on people's nervous systems every single day. And many people don't realize that chiropractors are actually working on the nervous system. We're using the spine as just a point to access the nervous system and to remove any restrictions that might be causing some sort of irritation in the nervous system. So our nervous system controls every aspect of our body, from our heart beating to our immune system function to every single cell. And all the functions that the cells do is an incredibly, incredibly complex system. The secret of the nervous system is to optimize it. You want it to function to the best of its abilities. So as a NUCA doctor, my job is to allow that nervous system to work to the best of its ability, to have proper communication between the brain and the rest of the body. And then having proper communication from the body back to the brain. Your brain is going to be controlling every aspect of function of your body and needs to have that signal or what we call communication coming from the cells back into the brain to inform the brain what's actually happening. So the brain needs to monitor those situations and make proper adjustments as it goes. And so in the world of chiropractic, we're working to free that system, to allow it to just communicate properly. We're not trying to interfere with it. We're just trying to remove any restrictions to that communication. If you think about irritation of nerve, it's very similar to if we play the old game of telephone. I imagine most of you have played that as a child. So my son is just now starting to kind of enter into that age where he's learning how to play this game as well. So in the game of telephone, of course, you start with the message on one end, and you have a group of people in a line, and each person whispers that message from one person to the next. And of course, oftentimes what happens in a game of telephone is by the end of that line, the message, whatever the sentence may be, has completely changed. Of interest, I just recently played the game of telephone at a conference, and I don't know, there's about 15 people on each line. And we were just having dinner and, passing the time until food arrived. And I was the second person in line, and I'm the one that messed up the message. So the other side actually got the message all the way from beginning to end, no problem. The message I messed up and passed on made it all the way to my end as well as the exact same message. So I was a kink in that. Oops. Anyway, there can be a miscommunication, just like my example. One person says something, the next person, in that case is me, it doesn't hear it quite right. And then they process it in their head, and they're thinking, okay, what did I hear? And then they try to take their best guess to tell the next person what that message was. And so the message gets garbled over time. And so when our nerves get irritated, the same thing happens. The signals change. When those signals change, ultimately the signal travels along the nerve to the cell that's innervating, and that cell receives the wrong message. And so if it's a group of cells that are receiving the wrong message, they're going to do the wrong thing. So that could be as simple as a muscle that's maybe contracting that's not supposed to be contracting. Or that could be causing a heart rate change, or it could be causing digestive issues. There's a whole host of things. And one of the things the nervous system controls is our immune system. As we had discussed again earlier in a previous episode, we're a self-healing body. And so when our immune system is not functioning properly, it opens us up to being sick, right? So we have this body is closed and we have this inside world. However, we live in this outside world too, and we're open to we're open to that. We're open to the outside world because we have all these openings, a mouth, we have ears, we have a nose, we have openings that allow the outside world to get into us. And so our immune system is a thing that helps to protect our inside world from anything bad that may be occurring from the outside world. And our nervous system controls that. Our nervous system is also our ability to interact with the outside world through our senses, our sight, our hearing, our taste, our smell, our touch. It allows us to move about the world too. It's controlling all of the muscles. But most importantly, our nervous system controls our immune system. So that's huge, right? So if we want to be healthy, we want our immune system to be working properly. There are studies that have been done showing something like a 200% increase in immune system function when people are under chiropractic care. That's huge, 200%. So that is going to allow someone to be healthier. It's going to allow their body to deal with an infection or whatever else it may be, and to do it in a faster way. Our immune system also functions to help us to heal from injuries. So our immune system is going to take away the cells that have been damaged, and it's going to get rid of them and allow the body to start to regenerate whatever that damage may be and to heal that. Our immune system is massive in our ability to be healthy. And what controls the immune system is the nervous system. And the immune system is just one system that's controlled by our nervous system. This isn't even talk about all the other organs and systems that the nervous system controls. Newsflash, the nervous system controls every single aspect of our body. It could go on and on here, but I don't want this episode to be just about this first pillar. So addressing the nervous system is absolutely critical to being healthy. Once again, I might be biased because I'm a chiropractor, but we see the health of people improve so dramatically when they're under care. It's insane. So first and foremost, we should make sure that we have a freely and properly functioning nervous system with the help of chiropractic care. And as a plug to me, because I am biased, you should get the help from a Nuka doc, like me, of course. So number 2 on the list is exercise. We need to exercise. We need to move our bodies. We're becoming more and more sedentary as we go. So movement is key and so critical to allow us to be healthy. I had a professor that said, life is motion. When you stop moving, you start dying. And I feel like that's such a poignant phrase, and there's so much truth to it. As we move less, we see that we have more infection. This is the reason that when an elderly person falls and breaks a hip, that often spells their demise. One of the most common things that happens when someone has a hip fracture is they get pneumonia, and it's because they stopped moving. And so it leads to their demise. I have this Garmin running watch that I wear all the time. My watch tracks my sleep, it tracks my stress during the day. I've been tracking it for about 4 years, and it's incredible to see the difference in my sleep quality and my stress scores when I'm exercising, especially compared to when I'm not exercising. Sleep is better, my stress is lower. I'm able to handle stress so much better from exercise. And there's no secret to exercise. You just got to move, and you got to keep moving. 20 minutes a day, 25, 30 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be anything tremendous. You can even break it up. Studies show that you can break your exercise into 2 or 3 parts during the day and still get that same benefit. You should have, give or take, about 2.5 hours total exercise a week. And that's a minimum. What's interesting is when I look at my watch and my sleep patterns and my stress, I see a very clear difference in my quality of sleep once I get over that 2.5 hour mark for weekly exercise. And it doesn't have to be hard exercise. In fact, most exercise should be pretty low intensity stuff. You should not be going hard every single day with exercise. It just needs to get the heart rate up. And if you're keeping track of your heart rate, you should be getting your heart rate to at least 50% of your maximum heart rate. Your max heart rate is kind of debatable how to determine it by any other means than by doing a max effort workouts. But the safer option is to just use a formula. And the easiest formula is just take the number 220, subtract your age from that, and that's give or take roughly your max heart rate. It's not a super accurate formula, and there's a lot more accurate ways to determine your max heart rate, but it's a very easy way to start. So if you're 40 years old, 220 minus 40 puts you at 180. So your max heart rate would be 180. And so 50% of that, which is a bare minimum that you need to for it to be considered exercise. So in this example, your heart rate needs to be about 90 beats per minute. Many of us have smartwatches now, so it's really easy to measure your heart rate. And those optical heart rate monitors on many watches are pretty accurate. They might be off by a couple beats, but they're going to give you a pretty good accurate point of where you're at. So 50% of your max heart rate is going to be low level exercising, such as walking, slowly riding a bike. With stretching, you may not quite get there. So exercises like yoga may not have a cardiovascular benefit. Yoga obviously is supposed to calm the body down to some degree, but those movements are still so great for us. Exercise is broken down into multiple categories. There's your cardiovascular, which is what I'm talking about with your heart rate. So your cardio, right? And then you need to have some form of strength training. And depending on how you approach strength training, it's possible to get some cardiovascular benefits as well. Stretching is also an extremely important thing. Yoga is fantastic if you want to follow some sort of a program, but any stretching can be tremendous to help the body to stay limber. A more limber body is going to be a body that's going to be less injured. So exercise is going to be key. You have to be consistent with it. You're going to do much better doing, say, 20 minutes of exercise a day or 25 minutes of exercise a day than you're going to be if you're doing 2 hours of exercise on one given day. Trust me, I have done all of these. I've done exercise where I've just done 1 or 2 workouts a week, and they're super long workouts. I love to exercise. It's really not a difficult thing to get myself to exercise. But I've done those times where I just do a couple of workouts a week. And once again, looking at my body data, I don't sleep as well when I do that compared to if I break up into smaller portions. So get your exercise in. You've got to get moving. And it can be a really simple thing. It can be as easy as just going for a walk. And once again, you can break it up. So it can be 10-minute walk before your day at the beginning of your day. It can be a 10-minute walk at the end of your day. And that can be one day. And then another day, you can do some simple strength exercises. It could be some push-ups. Those are great. They work out a large number of muscles. You could do some squats. These are easy things to do. It gets the body moving. And it really makes us tremendously more healthy. So I listened to this podcast where a gentleman talked about how he did a 5-minute strength training session every morning in his kitchen. And he's waiting on his coffee to get ready. So he would do squats or push-ups or some work with dumbbells. Every small thing you do, it helps. So next up, number 3 is water. We do not drink enough water. And to be clear, it needs to be good, clean water. It needs to be water, not soda, not coffee, not teas. All those things are actually going to pull water out of us. And so if you drink a cup of coffee, like an 8-ounce glass of coffee, you probably need another 8 ounces of water just to counteract how much water that coffee removes from our body. Many people who are coffee drinkers know you've got to go to the restroom after you drink your coffee, right? Because your body's losing water in the process. Most Americans are dehydrated, and we've actually started to confuse the sensation of thirst for hunger. Hence the reason a lot of overeating. The general rule, which I think is a little excessive, but the general rule is you should be drinking 1/2 of an ounce of water for every pound that you weigh. So if you're a 150-pound person, you should be drinking 75 ounces of water. That's about 10 cups of water. I think that's excessive. Even if you're doing exercise, that's probably a little excessive. But you should be drinking enough water that you're seeing that your urine is clear. Your urine should be mostly clear most of the times you go to the restroom. And so if it's not, then you're dehydrated. Every process of our body uses water. Our bodies are about 60% water. Our bodies use water for so many metabolic functions, from our digestion to how the cells are functioning in the body to forming many chemicals and hormones and different things. Water is vitally important, so we need to make sure we're hydrating. We need to be hydrating throughout the day. And I'm guilty. When I'm at work, I tend to not drink a lot of water. And the reason is because sometimes I just don't have time to take a bathroom break. But I'm still conscious of taking sips here and there, and will tend to consume more water before the workday, during lunch, and after the day is complete. You want to be drinking throughout the day, and you want to make sure you're drinking clean, pure water. Once again, not coffee, teas, sodas, or even alcoholic beverages. None of those count towards your water consumption. There are so many things in our water at this point in time that you want to be drinking pure water. Municipal water supplies include a lot of things that they intentionally put into the water on top of any chemicals that may already be present in that water when it arrives to the processing plant. They have made some changes where they have removed things like fluoride from water, which is a great thing. If you want to do fluoride, that's great, but you don't need to have it put into the entire water supply. Well water also has plenty of impurities and other chemicals that can be present. So you want clean water. Distilled water and reverse osmosis is going to be good. For both of those, the water should be remineralized. So a little bit of minerals need to be added. It shouldn't be just 100% pure reverse osmosis or distilled water. Both of those are pure water sources. But you should be adding some minerals back in. You can buy mineral packs, or even just putting a little salt in the water is enough to add some minerals back in. A lot of bottled water is really just some sort of municipal water supply that's gone through some sort of filtration process. So it might be slightly better than some municipal water, although there have been some studies that have actually shown bottled water actually has more contaminants than the average drinking water. So you want to be careful with bottled water. So if that's your only source of water, or maybe you live in a place that just has really poor water supply, or maybe you have water that is something that is not overly tasteful for you, and bottled water helps you drink more water, then by all means go for it. A reverse osmosis system is not a real challenging thing to put in the house. I have a very limited skill set in the mechanical world. I am not a handyman. I installed our reverse osmosis system, and it wasn't a very difficult task. It took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours. But part of that time I had to change our faucet in the process. So the actual reverse osmosis system probably would have taken me 40 minutes or so to put in. And so we have this pure, clean water, and we have to change the filters out every 6 to 12 months. But the water tastes great, and it remineralizes the water in the process. The system I put in for our kitchen faucet is by the brand Water Drop. As I said, it's very easy to put in. There are plenty of systems out there. Ours is a little bit on the expensive side because it's putting water out faster than a traditional reverse osmosis system. It's actually a powered system, so it's plugged into electricity to allow it to push water through the osmosis filters faster. It delivers something like 1,600 gallons of water a day or something like that. But pure, clean water is huge, and you want to be making sure you're drinking plenty of water. Your urine should be clear on most visits to the bathroom. If it's not, then you need to be increasing your water intake most likely. Next up in the pillars of health at number 4 is food. Food is also a huge component. You know, when we're looking at changes to improve our health, one of the things most people first look at is food. And they're looking to make changes to their diet. And there are all sorts of arguments over what is the best diet. And you know, I don't believe that any diet is best for every single person. We're all made differently. And as a general rule, I believe we should be eating a lot more plants and a lot less animals. Does that mean you should be vegetarian or vegan? No, not necessarily. Plants have so many nutrients and they're flavorful. Heck, we even use plants to flavor our meats. But the same thing is with water. You want to make sure you're eating good, clean food. You should try to stick with more organic varieties of food. Organic is becoming a lot more accessible. The prices are higher, but I think that the prices have come a little bit closer to what a conventional food item would be. If you can grow your own food, great. We grow a garden at our house. I love to grow food in our garden. There's this deep down good feeling when you're taking something from your garden and making it with the meals you're prepping during the week. And hit up your local farmers markets. There are many people selling food that they're growing that is better than organic, but it simply doesn't come with that official label. But once again, you want to have clean food. The less pesticides that we could be consuming, the better. Our bodies are taking in so many chemicals on a daily basis. Minimizing those chemicals as much as possible is going to be better for us. Our soils are also more devoid of nutrients, so taking supplements can be beneficial. Studies show that taking supplements increases our lifespan, so having a good, healthy supplement on top of a good diet is just going to help to cover the bases for you. I've gone through many different supplements through the years. Currently, we're using standard process supplements and having a lot of success. We've seen some awesome changes in our body. Standard Process is one of the companies that's making whole food supplements. They're taking the actual food and have this special process where they're dehydrating it or grinding it down to get the juices or using many other processes to extract the nutrients. Ultimately, they're making tablets, capsules, etc. So, like our magnesium, you open the bottle and it smells like Swiss chard. Now, some people may not like the smell of Swiss chard, but you know, I find it comforting to know that this is actually food that's been made into a tablet form. It makes me feel good to be taking a whole food supplement and you get all the benefits of that food. It's not necessarily that you're just getting one tiny little ingredient, but you're getting all the phytonutrients that make the food so important. You're not just getting one ingredient. when you're taking something like vitamin C, you're getting a whole host of other things that are synergistic, and they help the body to digest those nutrients. Food is special in that it contains these enzymes and other phytonutrients to help us absorb the nutrients. Food actually has things in there that helps us to break them down. The understanding as a supplement is that it's just meant to supplement our diet. And it covers those gaps that we might have, because the reality is every single day, you're not going to be able to eat all of the things that you need to eat. So food is important. Clean food, lots of plants, and fill in the gaps with supplements. Next on our list is sleep. That's the fifth pillar of health. And sleep can be really elusive for a lot of people. Exercise helps people sleep better, as I discussed before. Being properly hydrated helps as well. Proper diet and eating at the right times can also be very crucial for people. And this is what I'm talking about with the pillars of health and that health momentum. As you're improving one thing, you're seeing the other things improve as well. And sleep is oftentimes a symptom of a whole lot of other things that might be going on in our life. And improving other things can help to improve our sleep. But sleep is critical in our body's ability to heal. Our body does a lot of healing during the time that we're sleeping. So our cognitive ability actually diminishes very quickly with even a slight decrease in the amount of sleep that we need. So it can be debatable how much sleep each person needs. Obviously, when we're talking about children, 8, 9, 10 hours is very common. Teens still need a lot of sleep. And we oftentimes dog teenagers for sleeping as much as they are, but their bodies are changing so much that they actually need a lot of sleep. You know, once we move into adulthood, that number starts dropping. Suddenly we only need about 8 hours, 7 hours, 6.5 maybe. I find my body works well at right around 7 hours of sleep. But I notice I do better when I get a little bit more than that. And so you want to make sure you have a good sleep environment. You want to reduce your screen time before you go to bed. You want to make sure you have a regular nighttime routine. You want to make sure your room is dark. You want to make sure that your room is quiet. Or if it's not, if there is noise, you may need to get some white noise to cover that up. At our household, we use a white noise machine. It's called a Hatch. And we started using it with our son, and then we got one for our room as well. And it plays all sorts of different relaxing noises and has entire sleep routines you can do to wind yourself down. It plays all sorts of different relaxing noises. Most nights I sleep to crickets. It reminds me of when I was a child. I had the windows open and I could just hear the crickets on a summer night. My body really resonates with that sound. And so I sleep really well when we just have that cricket noise going. But you need to figure out ways to help yourself sleep better. Having a regular sleep routine is going to be good. Having a consistent bedtime is going to be good. I am notoriously terrible at having a consistent bedtime. I'm all over the place. I consider myself to be a night owl. However, you know, I work a job where I'm working in the morning. And so when I'm off of work, when I don't have to work the next morning, I tend to be up later. So my sleep schedule is all over the place. And I find that I feel better when I try to stick to a more consistent sleep schedule during the week. But consistency with sleep is key. And going through the process of figuring out maybe why you're having trouble sleeping, that's not easy. It's really not an easy thing. If your nervous system is functioning properly, you might find that your body is able to calm down better. There's two different parts of our nervous system, our sympathetic and our parasympathetic. And so our sympathetic system is what's called that fight or flight. And parasympathetic is nicknamed the rest and digest. So during the day, our sympathetic system should be taking over. And at night, our parasympathetic system should be taking over and being more dominant to allow our body to calm down. So when people have spinal misalignments with irritation in the nervous system, sometimes there's an imbalance of those systems. And so the parasympathetic system oftentimes can never really become dominant over that sympathetic system. And so you lose that balance, and that makes it difficult for the body to calm down. And so one of the things that's reported a lot of times when I start taking care of people is their sleep improves. And they'll notice that within the first few days of care. And that's really cool. And you know, when they're sleeping better, their body is going to be healing better as well. So as I mentioned, each thing that we're doing helps the other things. So having a balanced nervous system, exercising, drinking water, having a good diet, all those things are going to help you with having better sleep patterns and having a better quality of sleep. I think number one for people, we don't necessarily go to bed at the times that we should. We stay up too late. And then number two, we are more and more paying attention to screens or phones or tablets or computers. You know, we're getting our bodies hyped up looking at social media until right before bedtime. And then you're having trouble sleeping. So don't hop on social media and start doom scrolling. That's not going to help you at all to calm down. Reducing screen time is very important. You should have some sort of routine that you're doing at least 30 minutes, if not an hour before bedtime. And that routine should be getting away from screens. Maybe you shower at night. It's a really easy because then you have no screens while you're taking a shower and then you're going to bed. But you should have some sort of routine that's taking away from those screens and signaling your body that it's time to go to sleep and allow the natural processes of relaxation to happen. And there are all sorts of things you can do on top of a routine to help with your sleep. As I mentioned, having maybe a sound machine, maybe reading before bed. Some people will take melatonin. You shouldn't be taking melatonin every single night for years on end, but that might be able to help you on a short period of time to get your sleep back on track. There are all sorts of avenues of things you can do to help us sleep. It's a matter of figuring out what the problem is and correcting it. So get good sleep. Last on the pillars of health is stress. We are chronically stressed. So, number one, if you can avoid stress, avoid it. Obviously, sometimes that's hard to do, but sometimes we allow ourselves to get into stressful situations, even though we know we could maybe avoid them. So, number one, avoid stress when you can. And number two, which is vitally important, learn how to cope with stress better. Controlling your breath is huge. You know, when you're in a stressful situation, you can control your reaction to stress. That thing is only stressful because you are allowing it to be stressful. So understand that and try to control it. So our breathing can control our stress really well. There's all sorts of breathing techniques are out there to help with stress. But in general, you want to take a nice slow breath in for maybe 3 or 4 seconds. Hold it briefly and then breathe out. And you want that breath out to be a longer period of time that it takes to breathe in. So if you're breathing in for a count of 4, then breathe out for a count of 5 or a count of 6. When you're in a stressful situation, sometimes you just need to control your breathing and your body will naturally calm down. If you take 3, 4, 5 breaths, they're really nice, slow, and controlled, breathing in through your nose, and then you can breathe out through your mouth. You can make that very slow, controlled breath, and you'll feel your body change. You'll feel your shoulders start to come down. You'll feel your muscles calm down, and you can suddenly handle stress better. So when you find yourself in a stressful situation, look at your breath first. Allow that to calm you down. Once again, all these pillars of health, all those things you're doing ahead of time, balancing your nervous system, exercising, drinking water, eating right, sleeping, all of those things are going to allow your body to handle stress better. Once again, I have this watch, and it's tracking, amongst other things, it gives me a stress score every day. And it's fascinating to see how the stress score changes based off of the exercise I'm doing and the quality and quantity of sleep. If I have a night I don't sleep really well, my heart rate is elevated and my stress scores go up. So depending on how I sleep the night before and how much I've been exercising, it will determine what my stress score is going to be. It's fascinating. It's looking at my heart rate variability is what it's doing. Our heart rate, if you have a heart rate of say 60, your heart rate's not beating at 60 beats per minute all the time. It has this up and down wave to it. And so our body, if it's healthier, is actually having more variability. And the body that is more stressed has less variability to it. So our body's adapting, and that's what's happening. Our heart rate is variable because our body is instantaneously adapting to every little nuance of change. And so as a general guide with my watch, a stressful day for me is probably a score of 30 or above. When I'm sleeping well and when I'm exercising and doing all the things I should be doing, my average stress score for an entire week is usually about 21, 22. And if I'm not sleeping well, if I'm neglecting my sleep, if I've stopped exercising, maybe because I'm injured or something, suddenly I have stress scores are an average of 26, 27, 28. And that's a 33% increase. My body is handling stress 33% better when I am exercising and sleeping well versus when I'm not. So those things are cool to see, and they're huge. They're absolutely huge. We need to learn how to handle stress better because once again, we can't always eliminate stress from our life. So you need to know how to react better to it. And some of those reactions are simply getting your body in a place where it can handle that stress better on its own without you ever even having to think about it. And then incorporate deep breathing. And there are plenty of other relaxation techniques. I mentioned yoga before. It's huge. Yoga is helping you to connect better with your body and to learn how to sense your body and to control your body better. There's meditation. There's all sorts of things you can do to learn to handle stress better. So stress relief is massive. And dealing with stress and trying to be better at handling that chronic stress, because stress may not be necessarily going to kill us for many, many years, but it has a huge effect on our ability to stay healthy. So those are the 6 pillars of health. You need to do something to influence those, and you need to start somewhere. If you don't want to start with a NUCA doctor and get your nervous system balanced, obviously, I would think that would be a great place to start. But start somewhere. Start walking. Start to focus on just having 2 more glasses of water a day. Start your day with a glass of water and end your day with a glass of water. If you need roughly 60 to 70 ounces of water a day, if you have a glass in the morning and a glass in the evening, you're already a quarter of the way there. You're a quarter of the way to the water intake you need. And those can take very short amounts of time. you exercise. You can do some simple exercises on a daily basis. It's really easy. You can be in your kitchen, as I mentioned, waiting for your food or your coffee to heat up and get ready. And you can be doing squats or you can do push-ups. Just a few minutes here and there can really add up. It doesn't have to be some massive undertaking where you're deciding to run a 5K or to run a marathon. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. It can just be small steps. And that's the key to health, is taking small steps on a daily basis and making changes slowly. Don't try tackling everything at once. Don't take these 6 pillars of health and say, okay, tomorrow I'm doing all of them. Just make small changes regularly. And the small changes are going to lead to these huge outcomes that are going to benefit you in the long run. Because health is a journey, and enhancing your health is a journey. It's a process. It's a mindful process. And so take initiative and work toward a healthier you. And over a period of time, you'll see tremendous changes in your body and in your mind. It's those day-to-day changes and the day-to-day choices that we make that ultimately are going to shape how healthy we can be. And so just make a commitment. Just make a commitment to one change this week, one thing that you think you can improve upon. And then next week, look at another change. And if you start making one change a week or even one change a month, you are going to become more and more healthy as you go. So focus on making a change. Focus on making a better you. And I'll work to come up with more ideas to help you be healthier. I hope the 6 pillars of health was beneficial, and I hope you are better for hearing this episode. I look forward to seeing you be healthier tomorrow and into the future. I thank you for joining me today on the podcast. This is The Gentle Shift, Health by Choice, Not by Chance. I am Dr. Aaron Kiefer. Be well.